Gentlemen, welcome to this session that is titled Harnessing the Investment Climate. It's an event that is co-hosted by the African Development Bank and ICF. My name is Daniel Mapukera. I will be taking you through moderating this session. House rules, what we are going to do is that we will have panelists here who will talk to us about the topic at hand, and then after that we'll have a bit of interaction with the panelists, and we'll come to you. And if you have a point you want to make, questions you want to ask, please, that will be the time. We'll try not to take a lot of time from the podium because we want it to be as conversational as possible. But what we'll do first is to get to hear from the co-chairperson of ICF, the former president of the United Republic of Tanzania, His Excellency President Mkapa. If you could come up here.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to open this discussion. I wasn't prepared to be alone on this podium. I will make it as short as possible because I feel more secure in company than alone. I think it is understood now that it's imperative for growth to have investments, new, foreign, as well as national, and they constitute the savings of people nationally and in other countries. Those investments create jobs, they expand markets, and they make sure that government revenues increase, enable the government to perform the duties that go side by side with the political governance of the country. I was a member of the South Commission, which reported in 2005, looking at how Africa could speed up in its development, not so much politically, but certainly economically and socially. And one of the findings was that the climate did not invite local entrepreneurs to invest in their countries, or rather those with internal financial assets were inclined to go outside their countries to invest in developed countries. Capital flight. But also that it was not just a question of greed on their part, but that the environment inside their country made them feel insecure with their savings or their assets, and that the climate was not favorable. But for the same reasons, those with capital from outside the countries were not inclined to come and invest because of the same fear of insecurity. And so we said one of the ways in which we could speed up the process of growth, economic growth, and therefore conduce to social development and stability, was to see if we could help African countries to improve the investment climate in their regimes. What areas did you identify? First one is the asset land registration and land titling, without which an investor feels insecure and without which he's not going to increase his assets. The other area we identified was commercial justice. Once you have invested and are producing, if there is competition, you are bound to have commercial disputes with the labor unions, but also with fellow competitors. If the judicial system is not good enough, if it takes forever to have any settlements arrived at, no one is going to come and invest, and the internal capital will continue migrating. The other factor we realized was taxation. Taxation, if the tax regimes are not conducive, neither the internal nor the external investors will be inclined to come in. The other area we discovered was, of course, was infrastructure. Infrastructure in the sense of power, infrastructure in the sense of communication by road or by rail and so on. If those structures were truly primitive, you wouldn't invite very many people. But of course, ultimately, we also realized that trade facilitation has to be helped also. Without that, you remain very small in your size of economic activity. After which, the recommendation was made that we should have an investment climate facility, which would be contributed to by donor countries, but also the private sector. So we have had contributions to this fund from development agencies in Britain, the Netherlands, Germany, South Africa, and so on. But we have also had contributions to this fund from the private sector, in particular Shell, Coca-Cola, and so on. My regret is that we have not had very much contribution from the African countries themselves, who are the objects of these ministrations that the ICF is providing. This really is an expression of the general attitude that we expect other people to improve our lot rather than exercise ourselves the capacity for self-reliance and self-help. So that is one of the appeals that I am making now. We have had a first 7-year term, which is about to conclude next year, but we just had a renewal of the purpose of getting to continue this process for another 7 years, and therefore we'll need a renewal of the fund. And this is why I'm making that appeal. There are success stories. They're all in this little booklet, which you'll find. It tells you how we go about it. It tells you what the benefits are, where we have registered them, from Cape Verde to Zambia, from Mauritius to our host country, the Republic of Rwanda. They are extensive. They amount in savings in time, savings in cost, savings in transactions, and they are very well illustrated. I hope this will give a greater impetus to private sector contribution to our fund. The key to success really is first, on the part of governments, to recognize that the environment in their countries is inhibiting or is not broad enough to invite investment. So we work with the government. Unless the government is willing, we don't partner them. The other section, of course, is the private sector, because we consider them to be the principal agents of growth. If we have commercial enterprises, associations, we work with them. Together with the government, they should be able to identify the areas where we could be of help. Over and above that, there is the importance of the governments enabling their people to understand why we have to make these solicitations. Because sometimes we can be misled to think that people are coming to steal. We are facilitating our resources being stolen and our market being exploited rather than that we are doing it for our own benefit. Given those three conditions, success is assured, as you will see from these. I think these are fairly early remarks, and I would rather listen to you than to ourselves, but my appeal is one. The commercial associations, the industrial associations in your country, please engage with your governments to identify which are the areas that need reform. 2, get in touch with us after you have decided the investment climate facility, so that we sit together and see how we can facilitate the process. And thirdly, prepare your people so that they may not be misled into thinking that we are coming to exploit them rather than to give them an extra drive towards self-development and economic growth. I thank you.